by 6:15. We have a blue marlin. So we're like, all right, man, we just got to get a white in the sail or whatever. So I'm down brushing my teeth, and it's like 7 a.m. and I hear the boat come out of gear. So I come running up, and I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's a white. I'm like, bullshit. No way. They're like, no. As we reel it up, there's a white. So we had our grand slam by 7 or 7:30 in the morning. And I don't know. I think we caught 5 or 6 blue marlin that day. We had the white. We never saw a sail. And we had our swordfish, and there's a big cookout dock party that night.
And how did it start out? Like, what was the origin story?
Too much alcohol.
Really? Okay.
Says if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have given us fiberglass trees.
It's for fishermen. It's not for taking the wife and the wife's friends.
I think that it's a really, really pretty boat.
And then there was a blur that went by and ended up in the cockpit, as far as if I can remember correctly.
Welcome everybody to the Billfish State of Sportfishing podcast. My name is James LeGrone. I'm here joined by Eric Leach, and we're here to talk a little bit about fishing and people and everything that involves it. So how you doing, Eric?
I'm doing good. Just down here in Key West, watching the weather and I guess.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing in Florida right now. Very cool, buddy.
Yeah.
What boat are you running now?
I'm running a 61 Viking, the Ms. Elizabeth.
Nice.
Been on here for 2 years now, because coming up on 2 years.
Nice.
And doing good.
Is that the same boat you had in DR last year?
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, we have this and a 27 conch too as well.
How do you like that thing?
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a great bait boat. We've been playing around.
I was gonna say I see more and more people on those 27 conchs.
Yeah.
But conch is over by where you live, right?
Yeah, they make them up in Stewart.
Oh no, I thought they made them down in Lauderdale. I don't know why.
They did used to make them in Pompano, and then they moved it up to.
Gotcha. Well, Eric, tell us a little bit of how you got into this thing, man, because we all know once you get the bug, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I imagine like most, I grew up fishing, and my dad always had center consoles and flats boats, and we did a little bit of every kind of fishing. And
where'd you grow
up? Fort Lauderdale.
Nice.
My parents still live in the same house I grew up in.
Nice.
And with my dad being president of IGFA for most of my life, that opened a lot of doors, and I got to hear a lot of fishing stories from all over.
Yeah.
Record applications and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. And but it's just growing up fishing off our seawall. We bass fish, flats fish, backcountry. We fished a lot of the local meat and sailfish tournaments growing up with my dad.
Were you a pier rat too?
Not so much when I was younger. Kind of, I've gotten more when I've gotten older. I got into a bunch of the bridge fishing for snook.
Nice.
Kind of with kids and a wife and jobs. A lot of times you get busy, but I could always sneak away at night for a couple hours and go get some.
It's becoming so much more popular. Like I got a bunch of my friends, at least up here in Stewart, that's all they do. They don't fish at all during the day. They wait till it's late at night. They're like, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm like, where are you going? He's like, I'm gonna go over to the bridge. And I'm like, okay. He comes back with a picture of a 40-incher, and I'm like, what'd you do? And he's like, I just scooped up a little crab, put it on a hook, let it drift. And I'm like, okay, I guess it works out.
Yeah, exactly. By the time you focus in, you worked on the boat, you come back, you got kids in sports and homework and whatever else. Your day gets taken up pretty quick. You could always miss a couple hours of sleep and go catch something good, so it works out.
Right. We definitely now that I have a family and I got kids, I got a wife, it definitely has changed my whole, I wouldn't say schedule, just my outlook on everything, Like, here comes sailfish season, but it's also, Christmas break and this and that. And it's crazy.
Well, yeah, exactly.
tell me where you've been, buddy. Cause I like I said, I was talking to Tiny and a couple other guys, and they were talking about the South Pacific and a couple other places, and they're like, yeah, me and Eric Leach, and I'm like, holy shit. I was like, Eric's been fucking everywhere.
I've been to quite a few spots. Obviously done the Bahamas and Bermuda, and both sides of Mexico. Then I've been lucky enough to Madeira, the Canary Islands. I missed out on Cape Verde. That's one on my bucket list, and I'd like to hit. Never fished mainland Africa. I've been to mainland Africa, but I've never fished there. So I'd like to do that. And then we did Brazil, Venezuela, Aruba, Dominican, and then, I fished Hawaii quite a few years for the HIBT. I rode out with some boats. And then when I started on the French Look, we started there. But so we did one big trip was I started in Panama. We took the boat to Hawaii to Ogasawara, which is just south of Japan. Then we went to Kobe, Japan, Okinawa.
What year was
that? 99 to 2000.
Yeah, because Mark was on it, I think a couple years before that.
Yeah.
He was on it like right as Chewy left. I think he did one more year with Mike, and that was it.
Yeah.
So what was it like? I mean, because everybody does like not everybody, but a lot of people do the crossing just straight across from Panama. You actually went up to Hawaii, and people don't realize that it's actually not that high up in, it's everybody thinks it's off of Alaska and everything, but it's really, really a lot farther. Alaska's farther east than actual Hawaii is.
Yeah. And it was a nice jumping off point. It's long ways. I want to say there's like 17 or 18 days from Panama just to Hawaii nonstop. And one of the nice things was we got to Hawaii, and for like a day and a half, we didn't have some kind of oil certificate or something. And so Jody Whitworth was at home. So he was working to get this paperwork for us. So for a day and a half, we were outside Honolulu going back and forth, waiting. And we happened to pull in to Honolulu on my 21st birthday, October 14th. So, with us being, we've traveled and stuff like that, but it was nice as an American to be in America on your 21st birthday to get to go show your ID at the bars and do the whole thing. And I had some friends that were in college out there, so we all got to meet up. So it was kind of nice getting there actually and having that experience.
You imagine that feeling of like just being out there, going back and forth. You were like, there's no way they're gonna let me in on my birthday. There's no way.
You're like, how are we even gonna get this permit? Like, we didn't even know to have this license or whatever it was and certificate. Like, how do they even know how to get this? They're like, how? But it worked out. We got in, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
It's funny. People will ask sometimes. They're like, oh, you've traveled a bunch. What's the furthest you've gone by boat? I said, well, have you heard of the Pacific? I went across and back.
That's a pretty good point. It's a good one because everybody's like, oh, what's the longest you've ever traveled? And me, unfortunately, or not yet. I haven't done any oceanic crossings, but like I got on a boat straight from North Carolina all the way to Costa Rica. And we stopped, fueled up, and I never even touched ground and just kept on going. And I thought 11 days was a lot. Man, I can't imagine 17 days just from Panama to Hawaii.
I want to say our longest was 23 or 24 days from Cologne, Panama to Vitoria, Brazil.
I gotta say that's gotta be that you have to have a special love for the ocean to be out there that long without seeing land.
Yeah. And and you're chugging and you're doing 4 on, 8 off on your watches. And we'd have 2 130s out, as long as it was calm, we'd have them out. We'd lay the riggers out, and we'd quickly learn that we had to have a rag or something up there that we could see if we had a bite. Because otherwise, next thing you know, you go to check it, you're spooled or 3/4 of a spool is out there and a little wahoo skipping or something like that. So we have to keep checking on our markers.
That's awesome. Yeah, we on our 112, we had obviously now, you know, in this day and age, we had a camera that we'd rotate over to the rod. But same thing, we'd have like a little piece of red tape mark.
Yeah.
If it's not there anymore, that thing took off, you know?
Yeah.
Or else you couldn't see it on the camera. It looks the same. It just looks like this.
Yep.
But
yeah,
that's
exactly.
pretty epic, man. So, you also did some record fishing on the French Lick, or was that a different boat?
We did a little in coast with John Paul. A lot of it was 130.
Yeah.
John Paul's wrists were acting up, but
yeah,
for a little bit.
Mark told me he had carpal tunnel, and you guys had to switch over the rods to flip them, right?
So
flip
we
them,
had,
reverse them.
yeah. So we sent some 130s to Cal Sheets, and he made them left-handed reels. And so, but then we got them back and filled them with line, and the way it was is now free spool was up and full drag was down, and the reels on the other side. And so we got them, we filled them up with line, took forever. You know, you got to do all the pressure and the Dacron and everything like that. We got it up, and then John Paul's like, no, my wrist is feeling much better. Let's send them and switch them back. So we sent them back to Cal Sheets. We never even fished them as lefties and had them back into right-handed reels.
I can only imagine what Cal thought when he got the reels back or got the call. He's like,
yeah,
kidding, right? I mean, it definitely puts into perspective how some people, you know, love fishing so much, have to do everything and anything to get it, you know, to be able to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But in Costa Rica, we did some where we were fishing 8 pound for blue marlin and 2 pound for the sailfish and stuff, 2 and 4 pound for sailfish.
Dude, and in those days, they're still pretty big, but those days they were over 100-pound sailfish.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it was neat. It was back probably when I first met your dad, and we started in Golfito, Golfito, not Golfito, sorry, Flamingo, and then we were in Capos back when Capos just concrete docks kicking out there.
I remember Capos when it was like a very long, like ferry dock, or you know where the cruise ships came in. Basically, that's how I used to remember it, because every time my dad was like, "Hey, you know the season's coming, I'm going to Capos," and I'm like, "Okay," and then we go and see him. Obviously, he's on a mooring, but it just looked crazy to see boats tied up to that and all. You know, just the whole dynamic of having to get fuel and get stocked up. A lot of people don't realize how easy it is now. Oh, I gotta carry my groceries. There's no cart at the marina. Dude, it is funny because now I work for this guy that Ricardo Cileone said he owns the boat I work on. He has a 52 Viking in Peru. Has it on a mooring. And this last season, one of the mornings we woke up, you know, all you could hear all night is just waves crashing. This time they were really, really crashing. Big ground swell, all on the surf, you know, shore break, and we're all looking at each other, and they look at me, and I'm like, I get it, I'm swimming, I understand. I took my shirt off. All of a sudden, I see Mark take his shirt off and his shoes, and my boss take his shirt off and his shoes. Everybody just swam through the surf just to get out to the boat to go fish. But you know, it's really, really cool, you know, to do that stuff. I can't imagine being, you know, 21 and getting to look at all these places and being in the ocean that long. It's got to be super cool.
Yeah, it worked out. I graduated high school. That was my goal, to be on any boat that traveled. I said, no alimony, no car payment, no mortgage, no nothing. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Just teach me whatever. And my mom said when I was talking to Will Dixon about hiring me on the French, she's like, you're going to talk yourself out of it. I'm like, caught like 7 blue marlin in my life. You know, I don't know much. I have never fished 130.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. Talk yourself out of it.
Like I didn't, you know, I said, I'm quick. I know my knots. I know this. I haven't gaffed any blue marlin. I've wired 3. probably not very well. And
I
I
think
still
it's safe
got,
to say those days are well over. You know,
yeah,
it's pretty cool to I've never heard, talk yourself out of the job. I don't think everybody's ever used that approach and it worked.
yeah. I
You know,
figure I'd rather be honest and let them know that.
hey,
Listen, I'm
this
not
day and age is
pretending
a
to
lot
be
better.
anything I'm not.
No, but that's a great outlook to it. Now in this day and age, I mean, I was trying to hire a couple guys just for some day work, and they're telling me $400, and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't have anybody else to give me a hand lifting up heavy stuff. They get there at 10:30, they want to leave by 2, and I'm like, who the hell is paying $75 an hour? I was like, this is just crazy, man. I mean, I remember when, not when my dad, I don't want to sound bad, but my dad used to, make me come down to the boat and help out and do everything. And you see all the other chamois boys get some money, right? And he'd tell me, he's like, all right, you're allowed to grab a Mountain Dew. And I was happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I never got to drink Mountain Dew or none of that stuff. So I was stoked, but no, it's super, super cool to hear, some of the stories from back then. So how long were you in Hawaii before you made the jump?
I was only there like 2 weeks. I flew out there to meet the French look, but I'd fished out there like 5 years in a row, riding out with my dad and other people for the HIVT, and around that time every summer. That was kind of like one of our family trips.
Nice.
That we
So what do you do? What are you doing now with your boat? I mean, I know you go up and down Florida, and I know you do DR, and you stay pretty busy now, right?
Yeah, we do. You like sailfish tournaments? We do the Blue Water Series sailfish tournaments. We're in Key West right now. I know we have another trip here in the middle of September, Bully Ridge trip. Then I don't know if we have any more, or if we'll take it back to Palm Beach. We'll do probably a couple Bahamas Wahoo trips, some daytime sword fishing. And then get ready for the sailfish. And then now this year we didn't go to the Dominican. Next year we're talking about going back to the Dominican and doing that season.
Because you were down there right before we went down there on Anacalea with Mark. You were coming back.
Yeah,
so
last year.
In Cap Cana, or were you in Casa de Campo?
We were just in Cap Cana last year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this boat hasn't been to Casa de Campo. The one I did before that, the little Cabo I was running, the Real Excuse. We did like a whole season. Did Bahamas, Casa de Campo, St. Thomas, back to Cap Cana, back to the Bahamas, and then back home.
Sheesh. So awesome.
That was the 47 Cabo, and we had a 30-foot center console Manta that we were towing around with us. We had to run from Irma and then hide out for Maria, and
Irma, that's 17. That's 2017. Man, that was a hard season for sure. Because I mean, if you were traveling, you were anywhere in the Caribbean, you were trying to dodge them left and right. But I hear Cap Cana is a good place to be for a hurricane because of all the buildings and everything.
It was. Even last year, I forget the name of the one. It came over us as a Cat 1, and it seemed like we had the eye. We were like right on the eye. So it seemed like we got the worst of it. But it's nice in there. You don't have to worry about anybody breaking loose. It's all high-end sport fishes. Everybody has lines. For the most part, everybody took down their riggers and isinglass and put it away and helped each other. So, and it's so well protected with all the condos in there. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So.
I even heard from Mark, at least, that some people didn't even take their riggers down, or he did. I don't remember what the story was, but he rode out a hurricane in there, and he didn't even take his riggers down because he was right behind the building, so all the wind went to the side of him.
Yeah, I know. Most everybody took their riggers down. A couple guys didn't. There's a few broken riggers
and the guys that did it.
Class, but like, oh well.
Shit took them down.
Yeah. And there's a couple boats that the captains, never even came back down, and the mates were there, and everybody helped the mates get everything down, come under their wings, stuff like that.
Gotcha. How I got another question from your I know you daytime sword a lot. You do it out of Palm Beach or you do it out of Lauderdale?
With this boat, we've been doing it out of Palm Beach. Caught a few. I haven't had the success that I had down south. Down south, there's a little more consistent, I feel.
I remember seeing all the pictures all the time.
So, but, it's something I'm learning and fine tuning and stuff like that.
I went out 3 weeks ago, and it was 5 knots out of the east, and I got out there and there was 4 knots of current, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then an afternoon squall came by, and I was on a center console. My wife told me, she's like, we're never doing that again. Because we were in the squall, it was blowing like 30 knots. I don't know. It wasn't bad, but it just puts you in perspective that, being on a center console sometimes it's a little rough.
Yeah. No, it'll get you, that's for sure.
Do you do it on the conch or you do it on the sport fish?
We've been doing it mostly on the sport fish. Even on the last couple boats, bosses prefer sport fish. We've done it a little bit on the center consoles and always had luck, but they like their AC.
Yeah.
They get somebody else to stare at the tip and they come out. And, oh, hey, look.
There you go.
Right, I'll push the button from here on out.
I was gonna say that's all you gotta do. It's push the button. Man, now I do the same. Well, we don't do the same thing with my boss, but when we're fishing, he's not even like, sometimes he's not even outside because he works a lot. He's on meetings and you see his ears in. And now that we got Starlink, it's like he's zoned, but he wears his headset. So whenever Mark's like, oh, we got a fish, on the sonar, puts his sunglasses on, make sure they're not all foggy. He's like, all right, which side is it coming down? Mark's like, oh, the left side. He goes over and grabs the pitch bait and he's ready, waiting for it. I'm like, man, I remember when I used to get my hands burned and everything, no shirt, no shoes. It's changed a lot.
Yeah, my last boss, we call him the pitch bait ninja. He could lay down inside, and we didn't even have headphones or anything. I'd bang on the deck up there when I had a bite, or I marked one, and no sonar, I just marked one on a depth finder, and you'd swear he'd never make it. Next thing you know, man, here pitch bait's out, he's holding it, hooks it up, catches it or whatever. So we actually had Bobby Boyle one year for his birthday or Christmas do a little thing with, blue marlin and a ninja guy with a rod holding it. And that was his Christmas present.
That's awesome.
The pitch bait ninja.
People sometimes like I know people think, blue marlins are super fast and everything, but by the time you mark him on your depth finder and he hits the teaser, I've always counted about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That you got to do something and get a bait in position. Everybody's always getting out there and trying to clear this and trying to clear that. I'm like, he's still on the teaser. Give him a second.
Yeah.
Once the teaser comes out, all right, now worry about it,
Yeah, exactly.
I even remember I fished with this guy in Costa Rica in the Fads. It was freelance, and we were on a 40 game fisherman, and we always fished spinning reels. And he would open the bail, put a wire on it, and he'd have a bait out there, and he'd be inside doing his thing. And we weren't allowed to touch a rod until we were like, hey, blue marlin ate the bait. The bail's going. I mean, the line is. And he'd come out, put his glasses on, put his shirt on, pick up the rod, close the bail, and he's tight. And I'm like, oh my God, this has got to be like some kind of illegal, because this is way too easy for this guy. And they've always been gut hooked and stuff, but
I know that's kind of the Betsy's program. I know Mike Browser likes to catch most of the fish, and they'll fish the big spinners. So
really?
you can do the same thing too.
Aren't they in DR, or don't they normally go to DR?
Yes, yeah, they fish there a bunch. Yeah, they're one of the first American boats with us when I was on the reel tight. We were kind of both there, and it was like Ralph Christensen and then some other Puerto Ricans.
Yeah, I just
keeping it quiet.
Did you fish with Joe at all last year?
Yeah, I rode out quite a few days with them, and he rode out with me a couple days. Stuff.
Nice.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
he came on board, and on my program, Mark was It was just like a day fish to figure out where the fads were, and Joe's been there for a while, and he came out and he thought he was gonna have Mark all day, next to him and everything, and he saw Mark grab the sonar, grab the cable, grab his backpack, went up into the tower with a sonar controller, and just like, who am I talking to now? I'm like, you're catching him. I was like, come down here, let's see you sweat. Man, he made some banger freaking fish tip.
Oh yeah.
It had to be pretty cool to have you, Fly, and Joe all on the same boat, dude.
It was a great combination, and Eddie, and we all worked good together. We all had our specialties.
Everybody always gets butt hurt about how people mess with him, but I couldn't imagine the wars you guys had.
Oh, it was fun. We got along really good, and everybody had their part. We had pranks and messed around with each other.
Which is always awesome. It's always good to mess with other people.
If we're not messing with you, we're mad at you. So
yeah,
take it as a compliment.
That's what I always say. I was like, if I'm not fucking with you, I don't like you.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah. What are you guys up to?
We have we're fishing this weekend. And then I'm putting the boat in the yard, and then I'm flying down to Panama to meet my boss on his 52. We're gonna do October, November there, and then I'm taking his boat back to Peru to fish a season there, because our winter season is the season there, but he wants to go the beginning of December. He wants to go down because he's about 13 miles north of Cabo Blanco.
Okay.
I got some 130s made, and I got some other stuff made, and we're gonna go try and catch a big one.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, we were there last year, and I had a 50 because all we were doing were stripey fishing. But even then, the stripies were 250 pounds.
Yeah.
They weren't small by any means, and the swords on the surface were not small at all because of the Humboldt current. The Humboldt squids were everywhere, the seals were everywhere, but we saw one, followed it, and Mark's like, we're not pitching anything to that. we're not gonna be able to catch it. And we had some off rods that we didn't really trust at the moment, and we were getting new rods built. So I looked at my 50, looked at the other mate, and he's jumping up and down, no shoes. Ahí está, there it is. I'm like, I was like, we're not doing this. And then he tried to eat the teaser, but he smacked it so hard that he flew it almost like it swung it so hard it almost swung in front of the boat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a lure, but just the weight of it, like really far. I was like, that's it. I was like, let's go find the stripies. I was like, as I've never done that before, never seen a fish, I'm like, I'm not pitching that. Because there's a huge, like, we fished a bank. And off that bank, it's close to like 4,000 feet. The bank, if you keep them on the bank, it's about 200 and 300 feet. So you can fight one on a 50 there. But the edge of the bank was like a quarter mile away. I'm like, this isn't going to be good. She's going to fight for that, and then we're going to be done. But we have our season there, and then we do the Bahamas stuff. And I got my brother on board now. Mark went on to a different program, so I'm running the boat now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a good little step up.
Yeah. I was thinking back where I fished the Galapagos a little bit, and they were all bigger striped marlin there too when we were fishing.
You fished that on the French Lick too, or you just?
No, I was when Tim Choate was starting the operation there. I went down there to 35 Bertram.
Yeah, that boat's still there. It's got outboard.
Yeah. The guy that he was partners with, I guess, Eduardo, I think, took it over and still runs the stuff down there.
I'd love.
We didn't get the boat was broken down a lot, but the days we got out, you're seeing 30, 40 striped marlin a day,
and none of them are 60 pounds like in Mag Bay. They're all 100, 150, 250 sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so sick because you see them flag and their dorsals, you know, sticks out of the water so much. It's like, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. That's pretty epic.
yeah, yeah, it was fun. We had that guy, hunt for big fish guy, and he filmed a show. So it's neat doing the show because he'd catch 3 on conventional to splice in to make 1 catch. And we got 3 on like 20-pound spin. Then we got 3 on plug reels for bass. Then we got 3 on fly. And then he'd circle back and catch some others and stuff like that. So it was neat seeing the videoing side and what they needed and doing it on the different tackles.
That's gotta be pretty cool. I mean, to catch them on all that different stuff. See, the most I ever did was I have a Talica 8 and with a jigging rod, and it's kind of like a straight jigging rod. So every time it's got pressure, it just looks straight down. So it's really got no backbone at all.
Yeah.
I remember I asked my dad, I was like, all right, you ready? And he's like, don't do it, please. Because on the right teether, everybody else wanted to see the shit show. Threw it out there, and just the weight of the small little ballyhoo with a chugger head on it had the rod completely bent over. I'm holding it like this. And he's like, oh, you're gonna get smashed. It's gonna be really bad. Pitched it. Obviously, you know, I wasn't gonna be able to get him out if he went down. But he just started doing this on the surface, and my dad backed up really quick, got the leader, broke it off. He's like, I caught one on the jigging rod. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's got to be pretty crazy to film for, you know, a show and do all the different tackle. I mean, fun too, but I can't imagine transporting all that stuff down there, dude. Getting it through airport security and all that. Oh,
Yeah. I can't remember if they were using our conventionals and then they brought their light stuff. I don't remember that. Or maybe they had to have it because of sponsors and they had to have their stuff. I don't remember it.
We had a hard time bringing our, like, none of the rubber stuff, none of the steel stuff. A full LP, a full reel went right by in security, but they asked me for fluorocarbon. They stopped me, pulled the fluorocarbon out. They're like, what is this made out of? And I was like, I don't know, plastic and some kind of other composite. They're like, can you prove it? I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to prove that? They're like, well, you know, stuff is now getting converted into this and that. And I'm like, but don't you think that if somebody was trying to smuggle something, they try to smuggle it into the US instead of into like Peru or Colombia or one of these places? I don't think it'd work like that. And then you looked at me and he was like, you're right. Go. That was pretty eye-opening, you know, to travel with all that, to go to a different country. And, you know, because now we get so lucky, I think, that, you know, we get to go with our boats and take our tackle and all this. But when you go to somewhere else and you don't have it all and you try to make the best out of it, it's a different experience for sure.
Yeah, we used to do it like with my dad. We flew down to Venezuela a couple times. You know, he'd bring, you know, his own, you know, back then it was like TLD 20s or 25s and 4 rods or whatever. But you're traveling with that, so you need fresh line and stuff like that. Not depending on the
not line that they grab off of another charter boat and put it on their
exactly.
all about that stuff. It's crazy though. What boat did you guys fish on, if you remember?
We fished on the GG fleet a few times down there, on a couple of trips down there. We did. And then I was back there on the real tight too.
Oh, you guys went down there?
Yep. Yeah, right before the first round, Jim Lambert was having a hard time. They're giving him a hard time coming in on his private plane. So we didn't spend a ton of time there. And then we ended up going to the DR. That's how we found the DR. We're like, well, where should we go now? And we went to the DR.
That's awesome.
And ended up working out. But one thing I try to do whenever we're leaving these countries or whatever, like in the Dominican, you always have your wash down boy. Yeah. Whatever line I have, for the most part, I always try and leave them with line and some hooks or something that they can't get, but I'm easily going to get, and it's not that much money and helps them out.
Especially if it's like a spool that you know you're not going to be able to spool another reel on because it's got 300 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. But now, see, the one thing I did do there in Cap Cana was I brought like my own little rod and reel, just a little cheapo pen, whatever, you know, just because I wanted to mess around in the canals back there. And I gave Hawk, the security guard there, I gave him my rod, I gave him a little box with a bunch of little stuff, and he sends me a picture at least once a week because they catch those huge pompanos down there off of rocks and stuff, and he catches them on that. I'm like, that's a Pen 2000. How are you catching that thing with that? He's like, oh, Poppy, I swim. I'm like, you swim, you get him on, and then you swim out to grab it. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff means the world to them when they can't get stuff, and you know, it's easy for us. We're going back to the States and whatnot, you know, works out.
I don't think I've ever seen that, but I definitely like we definitely left like at least our mate and our washdown guy, they were brothers. So we gave him the grill and we gave him, you know, the rest of the stuff, you know, for them to take back home. Even like our chest freezer. I was like, you don't need it anymore. Take it. I've never seen a little SUV and a little car so packed. I mean, they strapped the chest freezer to the top of the little Hyundai and they wrapped it around and they, you know, they did it somehow and they made it home. But they were super, super appreciative, man. So you said you're doing the Blue Water Sailfish series, right?
Yep. Yeah. We do all those. That's only 3. I think we're gonna add the dust them off in December there. A little dust them off.
That's in December.
And I think that's it. And then, you know, Bahamas trips here and there for Wahoo and deep dropping and group patrolling
and your other boat, because I keep seeing in my head the other boat you used to work on, that used to be in Lauderdale, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. The Real Excuse 47 Cup.
Were you there when you guys caught that huge tiger on the Real Tight?
No, that was the year after I left. We had a few. Jim we'd throw it out on poly. We'd catch tarpon in the downtime, and we'd triple hook them, and we'd put it out on a poly ball. And we quickly learned that you have to do your double twisted wire straight to rope, straight to the poly ball, like A5s. Otherwise, every swivel would break. There'd always be a weak, you know, at first it was the welded eye. Okay, let's cut the welded eye. Nope, the swivel will pull up. Like, we destroyed everything cooking these big sharks. And we'd flip them out, we'd troll around and keep checking on it, and the thing would be pulling, we'd come over, we'd reel up the spread, go over, pull it up, and get them up. So we caught a few, but we didn't bring any in. And then the next year they had it because Jimmy's daughter caught it. It was really young at the time, like 12 or something like that.
Sheesh, man. I remember seeing the picture of that thing in Fly's house, and I was like, where is this? And he's like, in St. Thomas. I was like, oh, that's big.
Yeah.
You ever have any?
That day and the day they caught 56 sailfish were the 2 days I really was a little upset I wasn't there. I questioned leaving at that point.
Yeah, I saw that was on a CV. That was on the CV, right? That wasn't on the.
Yeah, on their Invincible, yes.
Oh, Invincible,
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that was on the Invincible. That's crazy. Yeah. And was that out of Palm Beach too, or was that down in?
Yeah, no, they were out of. They're fishing off Del Rey. Went out of Hillsborough. I was out. The job I was working, we had a hunting camp and the boats, and we were out duck hunting at the camp. I'm getting phone calls and texts. How many you at? Where are you at? Do you need more bait? So finally, I called Joe or Fly, and I was like, obviously you guys are catching a lot of sailfish. What's going on? He's like, oh man, I think we're at like 40 something now. Things are biting. They're everywhere. We're running out of bait. We've called everybody, telling them about the bite. Nobody else can get out here. We're by ourselves. Just
wasn't it like super cold that day too?
It was a cold day. It was a good cold front, but I don't know. None of the big dogs could make it out there that day. Everybody had work or something like that.
It's crazy.
So just every bait you put out, there's sailfish on it. So
that's awesome. That is super, super cool.
Yeah.
Epic. Yeah. I have a question for you. The boat that you guys, because I don't know if I remember this right. The French Look, you were on the French Look too. That was the GNS, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't remember if Mark was on there when it was a game fisherman or I don't think I think he said that the year he was about to leave, they switched over to the GNS. And I don't know if you guys were on that too.
Yeah, we were on the GNS. That's the only one we had. It was nice. We started, Will Dixon hired me. And then he ended up leaving when we were in Cabo fishing the Bisbee. And then on our way to Brazil, they called and said, "Oh, James Roberts is coming back." I was ridiculously excited.
I bet.
And then it was funny. Later on, he got down there and they hadn't been keeping up with the ballast system and stuff. And we were in Key West, and we had some men, John Bowen, come and do some engine work for us. And then we got the ballast system all working again and it's hooked up. So he had made friends with some of the little charter boats down here, the little rinky-dink guys. And we were running out sea trialing, and we'd run out the channel, and these guys are coming in at 10, 12 knots. We'd run up to them, spin around, put it in reverse, and then we'd pass them in reverse as they're running forward, cruising in, and we'd like wave at them, and then you'd spin around and run out to the next.
I don't know how I'd feel if I was a little charter boat guy. I was like,
Yeah.
how is that even possible?
Yeah. Yeah, here they are, like barely making 12 knots, cruising, coming in for their day. Here we are passing them in reverse.
That is crazy, dude. Like I've seen a few boats, especially BT's boat over in Kona, where I see 9, 10 knots, but 12 knots in reverse. Oh,
yeah. Well, and then I was on the other GNS hooker that Jerry Dunaway built, and we shipped it to the Canaries and took it to Madeira. And that one was even a little more rounded, and that one was
that's the Silverado now, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because they still have it over there.
Yeah, it went to Africa, and Clay Hensley had it, and then they got it out to Cape Verde.
Yeah, because I remember I was talking to Scotty Levin, and I was asking because him and Peter and all them guys, they all got together before Peter died, and they're all talking about the Raptor and the French Look and all of them, and those 3 boats, the Silverado, the Snafu now, and I think it was the Raptor. Those were the 3 boats that really could. At least the Raptor needed a wake, to be able to get up, to be able to go.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, the Silverado is pretty good without a wake.
Yeah, that was like the French Look. We kind of had to spin and like lift a corner, and then you could kind of launch off it and get going.
What kind of engines were on there?
Those were 671 turbos or whatever. Teacher on that, yeah. Yep. James Roberts always said he wanted 360-degree throttle so he could just go from full forward to full reverse just at the bottom of it without having to go all the way around.
No shit. That's got to be scary though. You just touch or something, you're going right back.
Yeah. They had oversized gears to take it and everything like that. And
everything was mechanical then.
Yep. Mechanical. That was one nice thing about the Cabo too, man. I still had mechanicals on there. So, you could get up and go, and it's a little more responsive than sitting here waiting all this electronic stuff.
You're waiting for it to kick in. I gotta say, I've always, been in the cockpit and everything, but I finally got in the cockpit of a smaller boat that had a lot of power, and it was a little game fisherman down in Costa Rica, and the difference of the size and just massive weight that these little boats can get is just incredible. Even Chewy runs a little Cabo. The size matters. That thing can turn around quick.
Yeah.
You don't realize these little 46 and 48 footers, they're really, really manageable. What kind of boat are you running now?
It's a 61 Viking.
Nice.
5. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you said you're down in Key West right now, right?
Yep, we're in Key West right now. We've been here since July.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So, do you do your summer fishing down there?
2 years ago when I started, the boss lives over by Tampa, and the boat was over there. And he's like, "Oh, we always bring the boat through Marathon, and one day there, one day up to Palm Beach." I said, "Oh, it's early September or late August." I go, "Why don't we go to Key West for a few weeks and bottom fish?" I've fished here a bunch, got a bunch of numbers, and we did, and it was really good. This year the water's hot, and we're, if you look at pictures, wow, yeah, we're still catching a lot of fish, but we're working a lot harder. The water's hot.
Yeah.
We can't keep our baits only pinfish in the marina. So we're catching our goggle eyes, and we have to sink a pin out in 50 feet of water just to keep the goggle eyes alive.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And the water flow isn't that bad over there. Is just the backs, the back of Key West is probably really hot, right? All the flats and all that.
Yeah, even offshore, like from Stock Island to Key West on the ocean side, even out in 20 foot of water, it's 90 degrees during the day.
That's crazy, man.
It's like
I'm
94
here in Palm Beach. I went all the way out to 300 feet, and it's hot. Out there in the current where it's supposed to be a little bit cooler and everything, it is very warm.
Yeah, yeah. The only other time I've had to sink a bait cage was in 2010. We fished a Duck Key sailfish tournament where I was on the reel tight, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's too cold. The baits are dying." I'm like, "What? It doesn't make sense. Like, come on, never heard of that." And we went in there, and everything died except cigar minnows. So we had to go back out and catch goggle eyes and sink our pens out in 25 foot of water. But that was the big freeze there in 2010 or whatever.
Man, that's got to complicate everything so much more.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had to do it. We called the guys on the Freedom. Ray Rocher was, running it for the sailfish tournaments, and Jimmy was on there. We're like, Albert. We're like, "Do not come in. Like, they're dying." Like, so they anchored out the first night or before pre-fishing. They anchored out inside the reef and slept on the boat. I don't know how their boss got out there. So, and then they fished with all their bits because you couldn't bring them in.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so now I have the opposite. It's too hot, and I have to sink my cages. It's too hot now.
Just to keep them cool. That's crazy. Now, Eric, I'd like to always ask people on this, crazy thing. What's one day of fishing or a couple of days of fishing? Because I always like to hear everybody's stories. Not so much about what you caught that day, but who you were with that just resonates with you.
Yeah, well, probably one of my best was, I've said it before, when I was 15, through obviously my dad, we were able to have dinner, my mom and dad and me and some other people. We had dinner on the French Lick when it was James Roberts, Mikey Latham, John Paul. They were in Fort Lauderdale showing off the boat. They just come from Madeira, polished marlin spike stand like that. That's what I said. That's what I want to do. I want to be a mate. I want to fish. This is it. So fast forward, now I'm 19 and we're in Brazil. James Roberts is the captain, and Jody Whitworth gets dengue fever, and he's in the hospital. And Mikey Latham happened to be down on Tim Choate's boat setting up some cameras. So we said, "Oh, you're done. Come fish with us a few days. We need somebody. Jody's in the hospital." So he jumps on, and we hooked a fish. They were calling 1,500. We ended up, it died, and we broke it off. Some porpoises. But so I'm literally sitting there with my gloves on, and Mikey Latham's right next to me. James Roberts is driving the boat, and John Paul Richard's in the chair. And I'm like, well, this was my dream just 4 years ago. These exact people. So that's obviously one if you're looking at circumstantial stuff.
I can't imagine the chills you had of realizing that moment, man.
Yeah. And then we had another, we caught a 80-pound swordfish. We were on the reel tight in St. Thomas, and it was real calm for a couple days. So I think we ended up spending like 62 hours on the North Drop or something. It was 3 days, 2 nights. And the first night, and I was always the swordfish guy. So I was the one up at night. Eddie Herbert would sleep on the bridge, and then Fly was out. Joe was outside the first night, like on the mezzanine, and then Fly was out the second night. And so the first night we caught a nice yellowfin tuna and some big squids and stuff like that. And then the next night is I was really the only one up, and I was kind of working the lines, checking it and fishing for baits. And the drift was perfect and the weights. So you could bring one in, and as you're letting it out, you could bring the next one in, and they all kind of went out in line. So it was really nice and easy.
Play the swordfish guy.
But like every hour, it was nice checking baits because the squids were bad. And at 5 a.m, I hooked one, and Eddie, what do you got? I'm like, I think it's a swordfish. And then Fly wakes up to Eddie Herbert standing there with a gaff, and he's like, So he comes over, and I don't even think we started the boat. So we caught about an 80-pound swordfish. Throw it in the boat. We're all excited. Whatever, 5:30 in the morning. So we get everything ready. We start trolling, and we caught a blue marlin like by 6:15. We have a blue marlin. So we're like, all right, man, we just got to get a white in the sail or whatever. So I'm down brushing my teeth, and it's like 7 a.m. and I hear the boat come out of gear. So I come running up, and I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's a white. I'm like, bullshit. No way. They're like, no. As we reel it up, there's a white. So we had our grand slam by 7 or 7:30 in the morning. And I don't know. I think we caught 5 or 6 blue marlin that day. We had the white. We never saw a sail. And we had our swordfish, and there's a big cookout dock party that night, full moon party or whatever. So we came in and we donated some fresh yellowfin and swordfish, but that was, not a big catch, but it was a really nice one. And as far as I know, it's the first and only Grand Slam in St. Thomas with a sword. So
that's some bragging rights right there.
So that
you put in the work all night though.
Yeah, no, it was 2 nights. It was a lot of work, but it worked out good. So
I can't imagine. I mean, you had a slam before what, 8?
Yeah, before 7:30, we had the slam.
Oh my god!
So in 2 hours, we had 3 species, and then we added a bunch of blue marlin.
That is epic, dude.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I appreciate you talking to me, buddy.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
No, for sure. We got to do this stuff again because we got to do it after next year, because after my first year of fishing, I want to talk to you about everything.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. I remember the first boat I was running was a 47 Viking. And when we were on the the real tight, if you were, a lot of times if you're a mate and you're driving, the captain's down there and you hook a fish, you drive on it. Eddie Herbert would come up and stand next to him, and he went down. And so it's like one of the first trips we're over in Treasure Cay, and we hook a blue marlin, and I kept waiting for somebody to come and tell me to go downstairs. Then I realized, no, it's me. I'm the captain now. And I drove the whole time.
I don't know how I'm going to react. I'm going to have to remember that you're saying that, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be up there doing whatever. All right, we hooked one and try to leave, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna stay up here.
Nope, it's you now.
That is epic, man. Thank you for talking to me, Eric, man. I appreciate it.
Yep, it was fun. Anytime.
All right, buddy. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Billfish podcast. This is James LeGrone saying goodbye. Thank you, Eric, buddy.
You got it. See you guys.
See you, man.